Hi guys, and welcome to the channel. This is going to be a bit new for me. Anybody who knows me will know that I have been a huge true crime fan for as long as I can remember. I watch a lot of documentaries, I read a lot of books, I've even studied criminology for a while. So I kind of had a bit of an idea that I was going to start this channel and go into different cases, some that are just interesting to me, some that have been solved, some are unsolved, maybe look at different serial killers along the way, but yeah, the intent of this channel is obviously never to upset or offend anyone. Whenever I'm going to be researching different cases, I am taking information from a lot of different sources. The case that I'm looking at now, you actually had to really dig to get the information. There's not a huge amount out there at all, and it is still an unsolved case. It is a UK case, but circulating a story like this, you never know what you're going to find. Somebody may realise they've seen something, somebody may realise they've seen someone, just something might pop into somebody's mind, and I think the further that this story can go, the more likely it is. Say more likely. It's probably a slim chance, but that's a chance. So with all that said, we are going to look today at the case of Kate Bushell. Kate Bushell was a 14-year-old girl from the Exeter area. It was actually Exwick, I think I'm saying that right. And it was a small, quiet, countryside sort of village. She lived with her parents, Jerry and Susan, and she also had her older brother Tim. Kate was described by all her friends as bubbly, friendly, outgoing, really quite confident, and just a very friendly girl to everyone she met. She appeared to be very popular in school and had a very large group of friends. The day of the murder was Saturday, the 15th of November 1997. It appeared to be a day just like any other. Kate had gone with her mother to collect a birthday present for her older brother Tim. They had got a comic and a CD at the local shops, and she had spent most of the day in her room doing homework. At around 4:30, some sources say 4:45, but the majority do say 4:30, she decided to go and walk her neighbour's dog. Now her neighbour was out of town, and she had agreed to walk the dog every day for them. The dog was a Jack Russell, and it was called Gemma. She told her parents she wouldn't be very long, being that it was November in the UK. It gets dark quite early in the winter months, so she had told her parents she wouldn't really be any longer than about 20 minutes. She left home. She went down Exwick Hill, which led onto Exwick Lane. It was a country walk through fields, and it was a very popular route, especially amongst dog walkers, which I think it's important to note that it was tea time. It was tea time on a Saturday, and I know in my area at tea time there's lots of people out walking their dogs just before they're about to settle down for the evening, before they're going to get their dinner. They're out walking their dogs. At around 5 p.m, Kate still hadn't returned home, and her parents were initially really quite irritated that she hadn't returned, but as more time passed, they became a bit more concerned. It didn't match up with Kate's behaviour. She didn't ever really give them any reason to worry or to concern them. They did think that perhaps she had met somebody in the estate or on the lane that she knew, and she'd maybe got talking to them, and that had held her up. So Jerry and Susan went out to walk the estate and just see if they could spot her or anybody who knew her, one of her friends. About 6:45, they still hadn't found Kate and she still hadn't returned home. And that's when they decided that it was time to report it to the police. The police very quickly came to the area and started to search for Kate, and Kate's father went with them to aid in the search. Susan, Kate's mother, went home. Obviously just in case she showed up again or, you know, had got held up somewhere and then just arrived home. But police and Jerry started down the route that they thought Kate would have taken, down Exwick Lane. And it wasn't very long down the lane until they discovered something. At 7:30, in a field beside Exwick Lane, they discovered the body of the 14-year-old girl. Unfortunately, it was Kate's dad who actually discovered the body initially. I can't begin to think what that man went through, finding the body of his own child. Obviously, he was a bit concerned that she hadn't come home, but I'm sure he did not think anything that serious had happened to her. Kate was found lying on her back. She had Reebok jogging bottoms, tracksuit bottoms on, and these had been pulled down around her knees. She also had quite long blonde hair. This had been spread out almost around her, and it was then obvious that her throat had been cut. The crime scene was cordoned off and Kate's body was removed and taken for autopsy. News of the murder spread very, very quickly around the town. It was a very small, quiet village and everybody knew everybody. But nobody ever expected that something like this would happen in that village. It was very quiet and nothing like that had ever happened before. During the autopsy, it was ruled that the cause of death was a single knife wound to the throat. It was also shown that the knife attack had been quite vicious. It was a very strong attack. It had been entered at the side of the neck and ripped out. The knife used was thought to be a kitchen knife, about 6 inches long. But a knife and a weapon has never been found, never recovered. It was also discovered that despite the fact Kate's trousers had been pulled down around her knees, there was no signs of sexual assault whatsoever. However, since the trousers were pulled down, there was obviously some sort of sexual element to this. Now whether the person got disturbed in some way and they had to leave, you know, maybe the dog started barking, something happened which maybe stopped the assault. Now more than 160 police officers were involved in the case. They went to 5,000 houses in the area, questioned everybody on the streets, in the houses, and collected DNA evidence from everybody that they could. The police said they did find some DNA evidence at the scene, but it was never released as to what that evidence was. It could have been a fingerprint, it could have been blood, it could have been a fingernail, a cigarette, something like that, but it had never been released. Or even how it was connected to the case. No one has ever been connected to Kate's murder. There was a strange thing that was found at the scene of the crime, and these were orange clothing fibres. Now, they were found at the crime scene, but they were also found nearby at a country style, like a wooden step in the area. It didn't link back to anything Kate owned, it didn't link back to anything she was wearing or anything in her home. Police have been trying really hard to identify these fibres, and they found that they were a bright orange azoic dyed material, and this is used for like non-fluorescent work clothing, so the likes of a boiler suit or thick gloves, thick fabric gloves or aprons, something along those lines. Now police then started to appeal for witnesses, and they were inundated with calls, tips, leads anything useful that people thought might lead to solving Kate's murder. One witness said that at approximately 5:30 p.m. they saw a small dog come out of the gate at the end of Exwick Lane. This dog is believed to have been Gemma, the Jack Russell that Kate was walking. Another witness saw Kate as they were driving down Exwick Lane, and this was approximately 4:50 p.m. They saw her standing in a lay-by the side of the road. But this witness also remembered slightly further on seeing a blue car. The blue car was parked in another lay-by just slightly further on from where Kate was standing. There was a man standing at the rear of the car, and it looked like he was searching in the boot for something or waiting at the boot for something. Now, 5 minutes after the first witness saw Kate, 2 other witnesses were also driving the same route. Whenever they were driving, they saw the blue car, but they didn't see a man and they didn't see Kate there, even though it was only 5 minutes later. Now, the first witness described the man that they saw. He was a white male. He was aged between 30 and 40 years old. He was of average build, average height, was clean shaven with dark collar length hair. The police appealed to the public with this really pretty vague description of a man in the hope somebody knew him, or even that the man himself would come forward and say, I was here, I was doing this, wasn't me, and rule himself out. No one ever came forward. So the man with the blue car looked more and more like a suspect. Police traced more than 2,000 blue cars, but all were eliminated from the inquiry. The car was never found, and a man meeting that description with that car was never found. 2 other witnesses told police of a man running at speed from the direction of the crime scene. Now, he was running through a field at around 5:10 p.m. to 5:40 p.m. This would have been just after Kate was killed. The witnesses said he was running very, very fast and in almost out of control fashion. He came down the lane and made a sudden turn into the estate. But he wasn't wearing athletic clothes, he wasn't wearing running gear, so it was a little out of place. It's not like somebody was just out for a run. And the fact that he was running away from the direction of the crime and immediately turned into the estate would suggest he knew what way to go. He knew what way to quickly get to where he was going. Police have always said that they think the killer lived in the area. He lived on the estate or was connected to somebody there because of how quick the attack obviously took place and the person disappeared. It was a very short period of time between the attack and when the police and the family were out looking for her. Now, it has never been confirmed that the man running and the man with the blue car are the same person. Obviously, it would make things easier if it was the same person, but in my view, I don't know why a person with a car would be running. The only reason I can think of was, as previously stated, if the sexual assault was disturbed, did he just run? Did he run to get away? To get away from anybody seeing him, to see exactly who he was, he just ran. That's the only reason I could come up with that this would be the same person. Neither of the men have ever come forward. Neither man has ever ruled themselves out by coming forward after multiple appeals to the public. Originally, police had said there were 3 suspects. These suspects were questioned and were then released without charge. So their names have never been released, or why they were suspects has never been released. So I think that the biggest question is what happened to Kate? Was it a planned attack? Was it an opportunistic attack? You know, had somebody seen Kate walking that lane by herself with the dog? You know, they had been maybe tracking her routine, that they knew she was going to be there, they knew she was going to be alone, and they took it, they took that opportunity. Or was it an organised killer? You know, they had the knife with them, they had a large weapon with them, but was it opportunistic? Was it could have been anybody. Any sole person walking down that road could have been targeted, or was it Kate specifically? If it was the man with the blue car or the man running, he'd be around 40 to 60 years old now, and that's even if he's still alive. Kate's brother Tim, he continues to work with the police now, and he launches new appeals, new campaigns in the hopes of getting any answers to his sister's killer, on why it happened. So it's almost 23 years later, and they're still no closer to finding this murderer and this attacker. I'm going to put a link in the description below to the Cornwall Police and their appeal. And there's a form on there if anybody knows anything or anybody has seen anything. There's some videos on there and more about the descriptions. So I'm going to link that below. And yeah, it's really sad that how long it's been and the family still has no answers and no closure. They don't know why. And it's a really brutal attack, a brutal way to lose a child. So yeah, if you have any information, please put that down below. If you can think of any theories as to why it happened, any theories as to who it could have been, please put it down in the comments. And I would like to read a lot of those and get back to some of those. And if there's any cases that you are interested in and would like to see me cover, again, put those down in the comments below. And I'll see you next time.